Now, I'd like to open the floor. What is your guys' favorite shark?
Dude, I used to love Mako sharks, the really fast ones. I thought they were sick.
See, that's a great pick, Ken.
Hammerhead. Give me a hammerhead.
Hammerhead, solid pick. For a while there, I was a big fan of the sawtooth shark, the one that's got the like similar to the hammerhead, just an interesting shape. But after last week, I'd have to say my favorite shark is Pitt linebacker Braylon Lovelace. Oh wait,
We got a defense full of sharks.
now other people may say, "Oh, my favorite shark is Player of the Week Rasheem Biles, linebacker of the week in the ACC." Some people maybe old heads will say Brandon George, just sort of a steady shark. Some will say Kyle Lewis, sort of like that Mako shark, fast guy. But I'm sticking with Braylon Lovelace, local kid. That's my favorite shark.
First down, goes to the sidelines, has a man wide open. It's tipped. MJ Devonshire got this. He's going to take it to the end zone.
He loves those moments. It reminds me of last year in the Garden against St. John. And guys just stepped up. Blake hits a what the hell 3. We're like, what are you doing? And he's done that all year.
Klicka out to Bizzario. It's over. The Pitt Panthers have upset Wisconsin.
Anybody if he hits his field goal. Up and got it. Sauls does it again.
Anyway, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Zach Kaminsky. This is Simplified Podcast. Week 10. College football is regular season is basically almost over. I think we're 2/3 of the way there at this point. But hey, man, Pitt is 7-0. It's the first time since 82, I want to say, or 81. But I'm feeling good. I'll bet you money that my co-hosts are feeling good as well. Mason, how you doing tonight?
Feeling good, Zach. We got the sports equinox tonight where we get NBA, MLB, and Monday Night Football on. And Kyle McCord just threw another interception.
I don't want to talk about MLB. That is not in my equinox. I'm upset about my team in the World Series. Unless this is all sort of a scripted event where the Yankees win a couple at home, I'm out. I'm out on baseball. Aaron Boone should be basically drawn and quartered at the Statue of Liberty, I think, for his transgressions against the game and the Yankee bullpen. But that's a separate podcast. Kent, how you doing tonight?
Fantastic, Zach. We're like you said, 7-0. I know some people. We'll get into everything, but I wish the Panthers were ranked a little bit higher, but we'll get into it.
You know what? That's probably a good place to start. So Pitt is 7-0, one of, I believe, 7 undefeated teams left in the country. One of 6 power teams left undefeated because Navy lost. Navy lost, so they're down. I forgot. But anyway, after being ranked number 19 going into the game, they're now only number 18, behind several teams with 1 or 2 losses. And Ken, I know you're fired up about this, so you got the floor here.
Yeah, I mean, initially, it's tough. I get why people are upset. Like I mentioned, I'm not thrilled about it. But on the bright side, boys, we have the college football playoff rankings coming out next week, so the AP poll becomes irrelevant. Zach, you were right a week or two ago when we were talking about this. It does come out election night, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, Panthers just get a dub this weekend and see where the actual poll puts you on Tuesday. That's all that matters. Take that 18 with a chip on your shoulder into this weekend and earn, your rightful spot on next Tuesday. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Like the college football playoff poll is the one that truly matters. This is the preseason basically. But it's been a problem for years now where preseason expectations just factor way too heavily into just how a team gets ranked. Even Pitt in their 21 season, granted they weren't undefeated and they had a couple bad losses at this point, but they still had a very slow climb up the polls. I think at this point in the season, you really should be taking out your preseason expectations and rankings of the team when you're creating these, especially because a lot of teams ahead of us, mainly. And now I might have a different mindset on this where I think that you should be ranking teams just based on what they've done in the season. And you shouldn't keep a power conference 7-0 team outside the top 15. I do think it's a bit egregious that a 2-loss Alabama is at 14. 2-loss LSU is above us. K-State, I don't love being above us being a 7-1 team with a couple of close wins against Colorado and Kansas the last couple weeks. I'll let Boise slide because I like Ash and Genty, but it's annoying. It's really annoying. The SEC bias with these teams, with losses. I think that you should still rank unbeaten teams at the top of the poll because they've done what they've had to do to make the postseason, which is not fucking lose any games.
Yeah, go ahead, Mace.
I was just gonna say, I thought that we were gonna be ranked higher. We didn't get any help this week at all.
No.
There are a bunch of teams, like you said, Zach, ranked ahead of us that we could have the argument. But I thought this week that, BYU could have dropped one. There are a couple other. Boise State had a close one with UNLV. There were a ton of teams that could have made this a little bit more favorable, but there were also a ton of teams that just didn't play this week. So I think, I don't know, if this win happened any other time in the season, we probably would have jumped a couple more spots, but it was just a little unlucky when it came to. But I agree with everything you're saying about the teams in front of us.
Yeah, I agree as well. The only other thing I'll add that I meant to mention before is, we talked last week when we were put at 19. One of the reasons we were like, okay, it makes sense to be 19 at this point. We've only, we had a lot of close wins. We had a really good opportunity, we said, to play a 5-1 team and blow the doors off, and that's exactly what we did. Just absolutely took it to them. So, and you only moved up one spot. So, I do agree we didn't get much help, but I thought we would jump into at least the top 15 with just the dominant win that we had. So,
I will say, I'm just looking here, and we'll get into the weekend preview as well, but we are going to get some help if we win, right? Because I mentioned LSU and Alabama, they're ranked 14 and 16 respectively. They're playing each other. So one way or the other, one of those teams will fall. There'll be a 3-loss team. And as it stands right now, there's not currently a 3-loss team ranked anywhere in the poll. I don't think there's any 3-loss teams receiving votes. So, Vanderbilt did, but that's sort of it's Vanderbilt. Just let them have the votes. That's fine by me.
If LSU wins in a close one, is Bama gonna be ranked 25 at 6-3?
Well, I mean, LSU's a 2-loss team, and they dropped 8 for losing to A&M. So I think they're two teams similar quality, and I think they would drop them just because they do tend to like Ken said, there was not much help. Not a lot of teams in front of us lost. If you lose, they will drop you like a stone.
When's the last time Alabama wasn't ranked? We can do this trivia later, but I just a thought I had in my head.
Let's see. Last time, no, that's unranked lost. I gotta look this up now. I really do gotta. Come on. Okay, I've got it here. Let's get some guesses.
Sorry, what was the question?
Last time Bama was not ranked. I'm gonna say 2011.
Okay.
Dude, not ranked at any point in the season.
We'll go by finished the season. That's what I have in front of me.
Finished the season unranked.
Oh, that might be older than 2011 then. I'll keep my answer though.
Okay.
Dude, I don't. I don't
Let's just
think
get
I
an
have a
answer
good
in here.
guess for this. I'll just say 2006. I don't know.
Ooh, so you're right that they did finish the year unranked in 2006, but the last time was 2007. So
Okay.
Kent wins this round. But enough about the poll. Let's talk about the Pitt Panthers in their 41-13 win over Syracuse on a Thursday night. Primetime television, and the Pitt defense answered the call in a spectacular way on Thursday. And I think the place to start is the Pitt linebacking core, because I'll just read you the stat line. This is their single game stat line from all the Pitt linebackers. 41 tackles, 5.5 of which were for loss. 2 of those are sacks, 4 picks, and 3 touchdowns.
Just absurd.
Absurd. Maybe the best you'll ever see from a linebacking core in a single game. And I was listening to Chris Peak's podcast, and he's like, this is probably Narduzzi's best linebacking core ever. And I don't think he's wrong. I mean, these guys run 6 deep, and they did this to Kyle McCord, who was having a really good season up until this point. The defense and Randy Bates did a great job just confusing him. They won every single tip drill. I mean, McCord threw 5 picks. The other one went to PJ O'Brien, a safety, but they were everywhere, and it was awesome to watch.
Yeah, they were just all over the field. 3 of us finally got to watch a game together for the first time, and it feels like a while. Just going absolutely crazy on that first pick six and the 2 pick sixes after that in the first half. Crazy, absolutely crazy. I think Pitt, I sent you guys the stat, like Pitt is the only FBS team in the last however many years to have a single game with multiple pick sixes in the first half. And now they have 2 of those games, or maybe it's first quarter.
So Pitt is like, I don't know when the last time was. The stat I saw is that they're still the only team with 2 pick sixes in a quarter, and the last time obviously was Virginia in 2022. They were the first team with 3 pick sixes since Southern California, like a decade ago.
Yeah, just absolutely impressive. Game on all fronts defensively. Offense struggled again. We can kind of get into that, but just absolutely defensive domination. Kyle McCord, like you said, was having a great year coming into it. It does make me annoyed that it's now like people are flipping it like, oh, Kyle McCord had a terrible game. Like, you're lucky, like Kyle McCord just had the worst game of his season, like blah, 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 blah. Just not getting the respect of basically we caused him to look that bad instead of he just had a bad game.
It was a schematic thing, and Mason, I'll let you go.
I was just going to say, Kent, that's a really good point. I think there are way too many voters that we talked about rankings earlier. There are way too many voters that are thinking that way too, which isn't like, I don't know. I don't think it's very fair. He was very successful at Ohio State. He's been very successful at Syracuse. When I don't care, you can have a bad game, and that's a couple interceptions. 5 interceptions with 3 pick sixes is not somebody just having like the yips. There has to be something that the defense does there that causes that. That's my thought on it. But I know there was one thing before you go, Zach. There was also a funny graphic where it showed all the Power 5 schools who we had more interceptions in this game than they had up until this point in the season. West Virginia was on there, but there were quite a few others. So
love that.
Yeah.
Also, the returns, especially the return by Kyle Lewis on his pick to get it in the end zone, just insane. That had really no business being a pick six, and he made magic happen. So, first one, clear path. Third one, relatively clear path. Made maybe 1 or 2 guys miss, but Kyle Lewis's return probably broke 4 or 5 tackles. Got his jersey ripped going into the end zone. Like, just complete effort. So,
yeah, I mean, I'll just say, like, not only were the linebackers everywhere, and I think that Randy Bates and this defensive staff did a great job just tricking McCord into throwing a lot of these picks. Like, I think that the second one with actually, let me show that for a second. The pick sixes, like the Biles and Lewis ones, were just great defensive schemes. They just had a linebacker in the area that McCord didn't see. Also, I think that this is kind of a hot take. I want to kind of soft launch here. It wasn't more important or as pivotal as the Pitt six, but Lewis's return was more impressive than Devonshire's.
Yeah.
How are you feeling on that?
Yeah. I mean, frankly, the Pitt six was not great coverage, and the ball went through his receiver's hands and ended up in his lap. Got a couple blocks, but Devonshire didn't really break any tackles on that return.
He
Just
juked
made
out one guy.
Yeah, I mean, it was still a nice return, don't get me wrong. Kyle Lewis was like breaking tackles left and right on that return. So, yeah, I would agree with that. More impressive return. But both sick plays, obviously. Also want to talk about Brandon George's interception because that was insane.
Yeah,
Laying on the ground. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, I want to talk about, I think it was Lovelace's interception on the screen pass. That one was created by the D-line. I think it was Isaiah Neal who was in the face of the running back. And I think that ball actually pops off his arm and into the hands of Lovelace. So, like, not only were the linebackers everywhere, but the D-line was getting a lot of pressure on McCord. I think they finished the night with 4 sacks overall. And, like, you could see it, like, McCord was not feeling comfortable in the pocket. You know, he dropped back, like, something like 70 times, completes 35 of his passes. But they just had him in the fucking torture chamber all night. And other than that, I mean, like, the coverage was great downfield. The cornerbacks had a nice couple breakups, but we got to talk about the fucking Brandon George pick. Made it onto art, but make it sports. That is a huge accomplishment to get your play on that shit. That was fucking electric.
Yeah, it also made number 2 on SC Top 10. Was all over the internet. I saw it on a lot of the main like sport Instagrams, whether it was like ESPN Sports Center, Bleacher Report, you know, anything. It was all over the place. So, yeah, obviously tipped in the air. He's laying on the ground, sees it somehow laying on the ground, and just kind of sticks his arm out and somehow keeps it from hitting the ground. Just overall, like, crazy awareness. And yeah, impressive to keep that ball from hitting the ground.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, that was one of those picks where you're like, when that happens, you know you're in for a good rest of the game when the ball's bouncing your way to that extent. Those games are just so fun to watch. Like, almost laughable, but in a good way, if that makes sense. Like, I know we were just cracking up at all the really cool to see all the exposure too. Like you said, Kent, it was on a lot of social media and stuff.
Yeah. I think just to wrap it up on the defense, like, we can't give them enough flowers for what they did in this game. But I think really the thing that I'm impressed with is that this team and this defense especially is rounding into form. I mean, we're talked about all offseason about how many new players are going to be on this defense and, like, how many young guys are going to get major playing time. And now, especially in the linebackers and really the D-lines come alive these last 2 games, but this whole defense is clicking from the front 7 to the safeties in the corners. Like, this is the Nardizzi defense that you're used to. And listen, man, like, obviously McCord, you know, he throws 300 yards, but he got 70 cracks at it. They held this team to 6 yards rushing overall.
That's a crazy stat.
Did not realize it was that bad.
They count sacks as yards here.
That's true.
So it's
still,
like,
I mean,
probably
that'd be
closer to like 30 overall, but that's like it's 30 on fucking 25 attempts. It's fucking nuts.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Hadn't seen that stat or really even realized that watching the game. Just yeah, the defense is playing lights out. They're playing like a top 10 defense. That's really the most criminal thing about their current ranking. It's just like, I don't know how you watch that game on Thursday and don't think that that's a top 10, top 15 team at least. Just absolutely balling the last 2 weeks on defensive side of the ball. Hopefully they can put offense and defense together. They haven't seemed to quite do that yet. Be clicking on both sides of the ball in a game yet this season. That's what they're going to need down the stretch in some of these tougher games coming up, beginning this weekend. But yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about the offense. So I know the offense didn't look great in this game, but I think it's also a factor of like this offense only got 44 plays off. Syracuse ran close to 90. I think they ran over 90 actually. I think they ran close to 100 plays. Eli looked a little bit wobbly. He did have the 2 very nice touchdown passes, but like we said, he only had 15 attempts. Like, I know the offense didn't look fantastic, but who's to say they just didn't get in a rhythm because they were off the field for so long. The time in possession in this game is hilarious. I think it's like a 40-20 split because they just didn't need to do anything.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair point to make. That they weren't on the field long. When you're not on the field, it's hard to score points on offense. They really just did he have any picks? I forget. Eli? No.
He had one that was called back on the roughing the passer call that was not very good.
Yeah. And then the first possession, we started with the ball. We thought he could have gotten picked off on the 1. And then we dropped a pick, and then we proceeded to get the pick 6 right after. So there was a couple drop picks right away, including one by Eli. So, you mentioned a couple of good touchdown passes. I ultimately think they'll get it together. I hope Eli's okay. That was another big point in this game was Eli gets shaken up. Narduzzi says he just got dirt in his eye. He's dancing and singing in the locker room. And then today...
That was weird.
Yeah. I'm like, that's an interesting comment to make. And then Monday, he's not really practicing, or we don't really know for Saturday. So
yeah. So the word is that they're unsure of his status, and I don't know how to read into it, whether it's like they just want SMU to try and prepare for both and then have Eli come back, or how serious it is, because it looked like it was a head thing because it was a kind of late. It wasn't a late hit out of bounds, but he went down hard on a QB run. I'm hoping it's not a concussion, but we'll get to this when we talk about SMU. I think that Nate will be fine if he plays against SMU. I did my homework this week. I watched the SMU Duke tape, which I'll get into in a little bit, but losing Eli for any amount of time would be really tough because he takes away your QB run ability. Like, I love Nate, but he can't run. He's fucking built like Gumby. He's a pocket passer. Hopefully, I think other than that, like, I just think that Eli looked a little bit out of sorts. And I don't know, like I mentioned earlier, if that was just him not being able to get into the game, but like some passes just weren't great. Some of them were off target, but then again, he had a couple of really great moments, the touchdown passes, the rollout pass where he hit Gavin over the middle of the field to pick up a first down. Overall, I'm not really too concerned. I think that this wasn't a game where they had to have any semblance of offense. So
yeah, I think at one point ESPN showed a graphic that was like we had 31 points and 83 yards of offense, which is crazy. But
I'll bet you Narduzzi was just like, I can't say that would get me in trouble. He was excited about scoring 21 points on defense that night. Also, shout out Ben Sauls. Give that man the fucking Luke Rosa, best kicker in the nation. 14 straight.
What was it, 59 yarder? Is that what he hit?
I think he had a 57
yarder at Heinz Field, which, we've seen plenty of games there, and even NFL kickers always say it's a tough stadium to kick at. So,
wait, I do have a stat that I want to pull up about that because I think he had the 58 against Cal, and then the 57 against against Syracuse, like we mentioned. Okay, it took 20 years for an NFL kicker to kick a field goal at Heinz Field beyond 55 yards. In the last 2 weeks, Ben Saul's done that twice.
Yeah, it's a crazy stat. He's going to be kicking on Sundays, dude. I mean, he's got he's got to keep this up. We said it last week. He was my most improved player when we did this superlative thing last week, and there's a reason. He's been lights out so far this year. You mentioned it. Perfect on field goals so far this year, including multiple. Just like there are no doubters too. Like that 57-yarder was right down the middle. I think I saw like some Ohio State fan Twitter account that was like, "Where does Pitt find these kickers? This is 57 yards, and he made it look like an extra point." Like every other college team in the country would kill to have a guy like that. So we're blessed, Ben. We love you. Keep it up. That's going to be a weapon in these tough games down the stretch as well. So,
yeah. Anything else before we recap the weekend real quick? Getting some shakes of the head. So let's recap real quick our Week 9 scores running around the ACC. Louisville beats Boston College on a comeback win 31-27 in sort of separating that second tier. Miami takes care of business against Florida State 36-14. Georgia Tech down their starting quarterback, can't do anything against Virginia Tech. They lose 21-6. Virginia turns in a stinker against UNC, losing 41-14. Wake Forest beats Stanford at 27-24. Stanford has now lost 12 straight home games, dating back multiple seasons. It is not good out west. However, it's good for the other Western team. Cal wakes up and smashes Oregon State 44-7. I think that they can just they can beat teams that aren't in the ACC. They're 4-0 against them, and then they are 0-4 in the ACC, which is a horrible way to live. But
yeah, Cal still hasn't realized they're in the ACC. They're just beating the Pac-12 teams.
Yeah, really. I do want to talk about one sort of in depth here, though, and that is SMU 28, Duke 27 in overtime. Guys, I don't know what they were doing all week in practice for SMU. They had 6 turnovers, and that's 3 picks, 3 fumbles. They lost a total of 6 fumbles and did not get any turnovers for their own side and still won by 1. Now, that is more of a factor of the fact that Duke is not very good. They were probably the worst 6-1 team of all time. But I was watching these highlights, right? And like the picks that their quarterback, Kevin Jennings, threw were bad picks. Like they were just bad throws. And I think they're really missing their top target, RJ Maryland, the tight end, who is out for the season, really badly. The fumbles thing, I don't know if Pitt can recreate 6 fumbles in a game, but they are probably teaching everybody how to peanut punch this week. The most important thing, though, is that I was looking at SMU's pass defense. They let Malik Murphy throw for almost 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, no picks. I don't think Malik Murphy is that good. He's just big. He can't really throw the ball, and he still nearly won this game for them. They went for 2, which I think was the right move in overtime. Didn't get the 2-point conversion, lost by 1, but yeah, SMU could have lost this last week, and their defense looked bad.
They were they were a field goal block away from losing this game too.
Oh, and the Duke kicker missed another one. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, like this was a very losable game for them. Yeah, the fact that Malik Murphy threw for, almost 300 yards. No slight to him, but I would like to think Eli Holstein or Nate Yarnell could put up a, similar or better stat line there. Thing I'm going to be looking for this week against SMU. The only reason they were in this game at all was because of their run game. Yeah. And we just talked about what we kind of did against Syracuse. Not sure if we'll be able to limit SMU the same way. They kind of want to play a different brand of football, but need a similar performance from the front guys to try to limit the couple of good running backs and quarterback runs even that they like to do.
Yeah, I'm going to put a pin in that real quick. Just going to go through the rest of the scores here real quick, hit the big ones. We mentioned this at the top. Boise beats UNLV in Vegas 29-24. That probably puts Boise in the driver's seat for the group of 5 playoff spot. Ashton Genty didn't have his best night, but Boise found a way to win. Penn State escapes Wisconsin after their starting quarterback gets hurt 28-13. And Nebraska does not pull off the upset against Ohio State. They lose 21-17 in the shoe. Texas finally gets, a win against their storied rival Vanderbilt, 27-24. I want to note that one because Texas has not looked great the last couple weeks. They're dealing with a lot of injuries, especially at running back. Texas A&M beats the hell out of LSU in the second half, 38-23. And then Indiana is 8-0, 31-17 over Washington. I was just watching that game. The crowd there is electric. I want to give them a shout out. Anything else but before we go back to Pitt versus SMU?
Did you say Bama beat Mizzou? That was the Halloween matchup of the week. That was a bad one.
Yeah, they beat
I thought
the
Mizzou
hell out of them.
I thought Mizzou might cover that one.
What did I say? I like the under in that one. The under was like 60 points. Yeah, I got a sharp eye on that one. So
Mizzou quarterback got hurt, right? I mean,
he was kind of already hurt, but he might have gotten re-injured. I don't know. I didn't watch that one at all.
Either way, 34-0.
Yeah, not good. But I do want to come back. So now we're talking Pitt versus SMU. You mentioned the running backs, and that was an astute observation because Brashard Smith, who wears 1 for SMU, and LJ Johnson, number 11, who's like kind of their spellback. These guys are so fast out of the backfield. Like Brashard Smith had 117 yards against Duke, and it seems like on a lot of the highlight plays, he was just hitting Mach 5 as soon as he hit the line of scrimmage. Like the key to the game is keeping up this defensive performance, especially against their run game, because Kevin Jennings did not look good. I think if you can limit the running game, they're kind of just not great with RJ Maryland, the tight end out. I don't know, like Roderick Daniels, number 13, is pretty good. He's pretty fast in the passing game, but other than that, they really have nobody. And a lot of those passes, like the ones to Daniels, those are 2 bombs. Without that, they only have something like 100 yards passing outside of him. And I think that with the way this defense is playing, they really, really can get after Kevin Jennings, the quarterback. And if they can contain this run game like they have been the last couple weeks, and they did it against a really good rushing attack in Cal, Syracuse not so much, but they made them look feeble. I think they have a really good shot of winning this game and getting what I believe is their first ranked win of the year.
Yeah, we know Duz likes to play a lot of that man coverage on the outside. Let the big dogs eat, get some pressure. I think we'll probably get a lot of that this week too. So, and I don't hate that based off what we saw last week at Duke. Like Duke all but gave us the blueprint of how to beat this team. So, just recreate that the best we can and let the offense do its thing.
Yep.
We talked about how close it was SMU to losing this game. It's so big that they won last week going into playoffs to keep that ranked little number next to their name. I think that'll help us out big time. A lot more respect on this game than if they had lost to Duke last week. Also, teams don't like to lose back-to-back weeks, so they'd have a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder this weekend, I think, if they had lost that one. So overall, very good that they pulled that one out. Just wanted to mention that in there. But I do think it's a very winnable game for the Panthers this weekend. And if we can somehow get 3 pick sixes in the first half again, I think that's a really good formula for success on our part too.
Yeah, I think they should just run that play every week. They should run the pick 6 play every week. Yeah. I mean, on the offensive side, SMU does have a pretty good front. I don't like if Dez can get anything on the ground going, if they can get a sort of running back to dispel him. I really want to see that. I feel like Dez is definitely not playing at 100%, and they don't really trust anybody else, whether that's Rodney, Daniel Carter, or Chano Bucco to spell him. Definitely want to see someone who can do that and get Dez less, hit less in the running game. But whether it's Eli or Nate, I think that both of these quarterbacks have a really, really good arm, really good eyes. and they really shouldn't have too much trouble going up against a SMU passing defense that I think is not the best. I mean, I think our receivers are much better than Duke's, like just flat out. I think our quarterback is better than Duke's. Running backs, I think we have a better running back than Star Thomas. I think that just this matchup really does, if they perform the way they have been on defense these last two games, I think, like I said earlier, they're rounding into form. This will be another big win for Pitt. Maybe not as big as the Syracuse game, but they can probably win this game by more than one score. I don't think that's out of the question. I do want to bring up a stat for you.
Go for it, and then I'll ask my question.
All right. No, actually, ask your question first. Go ahead.
What do you think about being 6.5-point dogs?
Is that the fucking line? No way.
I just see it. I saw it at 7.5 right now too. So depending on the book, maybe even over a touchdown. Just crazy.
That's fucking crazy.
So I think you got 3 points there for it being in Dallas.
Yeah.
Couple extra.
They think
the
Eli might
question.
not play. Yeah, that's all I can figure as well. But hey, good value. And I like being the dog, man. It's good to be the underdog sometimes. I didn't anticipate that. I thought it was maybe gonna be. I knew it was gonna be a close line, or I thought it was gonna be a close line. I should say, like 7-point underdogs. That really surprised me, but hey, bulletin board material for the boys, baby.
Actually, I don't want my players looking at gambling lines. I don't want them to be tempted like that. I'm just gonna put that one out.
I just hope they don't take it. I hope somebody shows them online, not on the books, that there are 7-point dogs this weekend.
I think that like Mason mentioned, you get 3 points as a home team. So basically, you would think that on a neutral field, SMU is favored by 4, and at home, Pitt would be a 1.5-point dog. A lot of this, I think, as well, is that the computer rankings are still like kind of middling on Pitt. Their ranks on those are sort of in the 30s and 40s, and SMU actually has a pretty good computer ranking. I think that's just because of sometimes the offense can be inconsistent, and then the defense is going to take a while for the metrics to account for the defense getting better, like overnight. But I guess my other thought is that maybe this line is a little bit bigger than we expected because of the Eli injury news. Like, the reason that the Syracuse line is fairly big is that the word was that 2 of Syracuse's better players, Trevor Pena and Marlo Wax, were going to be out for this game. They ended up playing. It didn't really matter. But I would think that might factor into it. But like I said sort of earlier, Nate can sling it. I don't have any I'm not scared if Nate's playing. He was good enough to be QB1. He just got beat by Eli in the preseason. I think if Nate starts this game, he can do what Malik Murphy did. And I think he's better than Malik Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. Beginning of the year, we thought Nate was going to start. Anyways, it turned out to be Eli's job, and Eli's impressive so far. But if you're going to have a backup QB start a game, Nate is a pretty good one to have. It's good to have some insurance at that position for reasons that are obvious. But, I hope what Narduzzi said after the game was accurate. I hope Eli's fine. I hope this is all just smoke and mirrors, trying to keep SMU on their toes to have to prepare for both guys. But you never know. But yeah, like you said, and I think Mason mentioned as well, that definitely could play into the line for this game, and I think that it probably has something to do with it. So,
I mean, Narduzzi's famous for doing this kind of thing, right?
He's trolling hard this season, dude. He's on his 7-0 trolling. He's never had that. He's never been able to do that.
when he wins, he might be the pettiest coach in college football. Like, they fucked up letting him be 7-0 because he's going around talking smack to everybody. He's still dumping on West Virginia, which I fucking love. That's what you should do at every opportunity. You should be like, oh, hey guys, we beat our rival. You know, we beat our rival. Hey, we beat our rival. It's a nice day. We're having fun. God, that was so fucking good. Real quick, I do want to say about Nate, they're doing the right thing by getting him first team reps to get him ready for the game. But also, like you said, like, I'm confident Nate is a backup because not only is, like, I think he's a good player. I just might be, like, biased and blinded by that, but he has starting experience. He's started multiple games for this team. He's not being thrown into the fire with a week to prepare. He was preparing to be the starter all offseason, and he knows what it's like to play game speed. Like, that's your best case scenario. That doesn't happen a lot in college, especially now with the transfer portal. Usually these guys are gone now, starting somewhere else, but he's still here.
Yeah, a lot of positives. Regardless on who's starting on Saturday night, I think we can feel pretty good. Nate, has played well for us in the past, and he, Narduzzi said today he's getting some first team reps, but he typically gets some first team reps each week, as I've seen also. So that really means nothing. A lot more of just words coming from Narduzzi that mean nothing. But that's the game he likes to play. That's the game that Pat Nardog likes to play. So,
hell yeah,
it's a gift and a curse because I think it does, having to account for two quarterbacks does make the game plan harder. But now as fans, we're also kind of like left to worry and wonder a little bit. But come Saturday, I'll like you guys both said, I'll be hyped up to watch either quarterback go and beat the Mustangs.
We just can't have a George Pickens on our team with the whole Russell Wilson thing, where he said, where 30 minutes before they interviewed George Pickens, Mike Tomlin said, we're not naming a starting quarterback. You'll find out on Sunday. And then an interviewer asked George Pickens why he was getting extra reps with Russell Wilson after practice, and he said, because it's his first start.
All right, we'll have to we'll coach the guys up on some media presence, so we don't have one of those.
Yeah, we don't want an oopsie. That's all we got on the game. Anything else from you guys? Getting those before we preview the rest of Saturday, because I forgot to do this at the top of the show. Shout out again to Pitt volleyball, still ranked number 1. 1 in 5 sets against Louisville, as they tend to do at home. That is now the last 3 times in Pittsburgh. They've gone to 5, and they've beaten Louisville every single time. Go Pitt volleyball. They're going to win a title. Now, for the Saturday slate, I was looking at this. I'm going to be honest. I'm not thrilled by it. I'm not too enamored with it. Really quick, with the ACC, you've got Duke at Miami at noon on ABC. Let's see if Duke's got some more magic in him. I don't really think so. Miami's probably going to go undefeated.
Come on,
Stanford,
Devils.
NC State in the Turd Bowl number 2. Virginia Tech goes to Syracuse. Let's see if McCord maybe bounces back and sort of helps us out there. UNC at Florida State on 3:30. And then I will say, if you're not going to this game and you got a second screen, for the night game, I would put Louisville at Clemson on the second screen, sort of as a scouting opportunity for both of these teams. They're coming up in the next month. So that is on ESPN 7:30. Maybe Louisville can do something there. They did have a comeback win against Boston College, but I think they're probably firmly in the second tier, while it's us, Miami, SMU, and Clemson in the first tier as of the time of recording. Anything else? All right. And then for the other big games around the weekend, the biggest one, they stole game day from us for this. Ohio State goes to Penn State, 12 o'clock on Fox, big noon. You guys got a feeling in this game one way or the other?
This feels like the year that Penn State beats Ohio State. I think especially if Drew Aller was healthy. I haven't really been up to like looking and seeing kind of where they're at for updates for next week. I think if he plays, Penn State wins this game. I think if he doesn't play, Penn State still might win this game. It's just a little bit less likely.
Dude, I'll always root. I mean, obviously, I'll always root for the Buckeyes in this matchup. It's always funny when Penn State can't win this game. I hope it happens again. But I do agree with Mason that it's like OSU's not looking great. If there's a year Penn State's going to do this, it would probably have to be this year, especially at home. But I'm still going to keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's like I don't want Penn State to win, but I just feel it feels like this is the year. What's the number now? 8 in a row for Ohio State? Is that where we're at? But I think it's
Last
something.
time was what, like 2016?
Yeah, I think this might be them going for 8 in a row, which feels like Penn State's kind of due, honestly.
Yeah. So my thing is like, obviously this is a game that Ohio State always wins. But Mason, you're right. This is just like everything is aligning for Penn State to win. Honestly, with or without Drew Aller, I'll give you a couple of reasons. One, the Ohio State offensive line is in tatters. They lost their starting left tackle against Oregon, and their backup got hurt against Nebraska, and he didn't look good. He was getting worked all game by Nebraska's DNs, and Ohio State has, hate to say it, but they have two of the best defensive ends in the country. They're going to put their tackles in a turnstile all day. The Penn State offense under Andy Kudelnicki, their new OC, has looked extremely creative and has been moving the ball all up and down the yard. I like what they've been doing a lot. Kudelnicki is probably one of the game's best OCs. Now, I can say all that, but also Ohio State has Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Ibuka, and Carnell Tate. Sometimes they just score points and you can't do anything about it. My brain says Penn State, but I can never be fully confident in that just straight up with the receiver talent that Ohio State has. No matter how bad the defense has looked against Oregon, no matter how horrible the O-line has looked against the last two teams, like Ohio State just wins this, but we'll be watching this one. We'll be hate watching this one for sure.
Yeah, the backup quarterback for Penn State, Cade Pabula, is Bo Pabula. Cade, his brother, who I played against, is a York County boy. So, little nugget to look out for when we watch on Saturday.
That's a lot of lore you just dropped there. You played against the Penn State backup quarterback's brother.
Yeah,
that is amazing lore. Honestly, I was saying, outside of that, you're not getting a ton in this noon slate. I mean, I mentioned Duke at Miami. Go Blue Devils, but I don't know about that one. Ole Miss at Arkansas. It would be really funny if Arkansas dropped Ole Miss out of the top 25 at this point. Other than that, it is slop. I will shout out Vanderbilt at Auburn, 12:45 on SEC Network, because if you get bowl eligible Vanderbilt and then 3-6 Auburn, that would be really funny to me. That would put a light in my heart. Not much else though. 3:30, you've got the cocktail party, Florida, Georgia in Jacksonville. Georgia's 17-point favorite, but it's a cool stadium. No real thoughts on the game. I don't think Florida is up for it. Texas Tech, Iowa State. If you're rooting for teams ahead of Pitt to lose, this is one to have your eye on, as well as Indiana going to Michigan State. And then Kansas State goes to Houston, but Houston's pretty bad. Not much else in the 3:30 slot. Moving into the night games, though, I mean, there's some pretty big ones. Oh shit, is LSU Alabama next week? Did I fuck that up? I might have fucked that up. Oops. That's my bad. I thought that one was this week. That is going to be next week.
Yeah, they don't play.
Okay, that is next week. That is my bad. I lied at the top of the show. The night slate outside of Pitt, SMU, and Clemson, Louisville, really not a lot going here. Your probably other best game is A&M going to South Carolina, which stinks. That's not going to be a good game. A&M's quarterback is a running quarterback, and South Carolina can't really hang with them. Not much else I'm seeing on the slate. Mason, take me down to the comedy club. What do we got?
At this point, every single ranked team that's playing above us playing an unranked team is a wouldn't it be funny game. Because that's apparently what we need to have happen to move up in the rankings. I actually, you kind of sold me earlier, Zach. I was looking at the slate again, didn't really think anything was funny. That wouldn't it be funny of a game. The only other one that kind of came to my head was Michigan over Oregon, but I have a future on Oregon, so I don't even want to put that in the universe. So I'm gonna lob to you the wouldn't it be funny this week? And you said it was Vandy and Auburn, right?
Yeah. That would just be bowl eligible Vanderbilt, and that would also be Diego Pavia beating Hugh Freeze 3 times. Perfect record against Hugh Freeze for that quarterback. Twice at New Mexico State, and now he gets another crack at Vandy. That would be fantastic.
Wow.
Now, the rankings are going to skew this one, but just personally for me, that's like a 6-3.
I like that. That's a good score.
We'll roll with that. Ken, are you in the holiday spirit? Is it still a Halloween game of the week if we're after Halloween, or are we going back to Christmas?
It's not, because it's going to be after Halloween.
Okay.
Best Christmas matchup of the week we got is that 3:30 game between undefeated Indiana at Michigan State. I'm rooting for Indiana to lose, which I shouldn't. Like, knock on wood, that might be bad karma because we're also undefeated. But I don't know. I hope. Sometimes it seems like there's some magic that happens in East Lansing every year randomly. They're never that good, but they seem to pull out one upset. This could be it. It's an 8-point spread. I'll have my eye on that one.
So about the East Lansing Magic, I don't know if that's already activated though, because they did beat Iowa at home 32-20.
You think they use too much of their fairy dust already?
Yeah, I mean, I could see this one happening because Michigan State did play very well against Michigan last week. We didn't talk about that one, but that was just a horrible game to watch. If Indiana's starting quarterback, Tanner Rourke, is not healthy, I could see it. But it looks like he is going to be back, so the offense should look a little bit better for Indiana. And the Indiana defense looked really good against Washington. So I'm rooting for the feel-good story of Indiana. Like, if they were a different team, I think I'd be rooting against them, but it's Indiana. Like,
I just don't know if I love Kurt Signetti, dude. I don't know, man. Anybody related to Frank Signetti just...
Well, I get that, but he didn't even give his brother a fucking job on staff. He knows how fucking shit he is. So I got to respect that.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you, Zach, where all things point to, like, if we want to move up in the rankings, we probably, like, it would be good for Indiana to lose. But I like them, man. I like that they're going in and shaking the Big Ten up. They keep kind of proving people wrong. And I don't know if they play Penn State this year, but any other time we get another team in there that can possibly beat Penn State, that's a good thing. So I'm all for it.
They do get Ohio State. Now, I've got my eyes on that one, but
they're good enough to win. They're good enough to win the Big Ten. I think they need a lot to go their way. I think Oregon's kind of a wagon, but it's not out of the question.
Yeah, they're gonna have a November to remember with this game, Michigan, Ohio State, and Purdue. Like they straight up just control their own destiny here.
Yeah, and they love beating Purdue.
They love beating Purdue, and then I mean, you're talking about Kurt Signetti, but the quote of "I win, Google me," one of the hardest quotes of all time. Got to put that out there.
That is a hard quote, I gotta say. It's like I can't decide if I like him or not. Let me put it that way. I'm like torn. So no matter how this game goes, I'll root for them against like Ohio State. You're right. Maybe if they win, it would be nice to see them beat Ohio State, get to the Big Ten championship. Like, that would be awesome. Don't get me wrong. If they're rooting for us, I'll root for them. Let me put it that way.
I think one of my good buddies from Raleigh went to IU, and he was watching the game on Thursday night, and he said, Mason, why is Pitt not getting the love that Indiana is? And I said, JR, that's a very good question. I don't know, but I think they're in our corner. I think they kind of realize that we're in the same grouping of schools where, we're kind of basketball schools, not always the, we're not the Penn States and Ohio States and stuff like that. So when we can make noise like this, like, we should have each other's back.
Yeah, I would say we're sort of non-traditional football powerhouses, at
Right.
least of recently for Pitt.
Right. Yeah.
And listen, they're having their Pitt 2021 style season. I want that to happen for them. That would be so electric for that fan base. Give me the Hoosiers here. Give me the Hoosiers to cover 8 points in East Lansing.
Okay, you guys have convinced me. I'm all on board.
Let's go.
Let's go.
All right, we're a Hoosiers football podcast.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. And then I know we keep talking about teams ranked ahead of us winning. I just want to reiterate, these rankings could be completely different, even if all the teams that are currently ranked ahead of us in the AP poll win. We could literally be, in the committee's mind, number 7, and we just don't know it. So, we just got to win, take care of business on Saturday, win convincingly if possible, but just get the dub done and see where we lie on Tuesday. And then we worry about the teams ahead of us to lose.
And you can guarantee that I'm tuning into that college football committee rankings before anything politically on Tuesday night.
100%.
Yeah. Should we do a live reaction? Let's think about that. Let's put that one in the chamber, maybe. But we'll cross that bridge next week. That's going to do it for us this week, though. If you like the pod, follow us on Twitter at Simple5Pod, and then I believe we have other social media going up. Is that right, Kent? You should put that in the fucking front of the episode.
The Instagram has been created. Go follow it. We have yet to post on there or follow anybody besides the host of this podcast. But it's simple_fi, and we will begin to spread our content across multiple platforms.
We better get some clips from the show with like Subway Surfers in the bottom, like they do on TikTok all the time. That's the kind of content I think we should start getting on there.
We're doing brain rot, folks, and you can't stop us. So yeah, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. If you like the show, rate it 5 stars and follow us on your podcast app of choice. And we'll see you next week.
Hail to Pitt.
Beat the Mustangs.